the word that I hate. And, it's a joke in VRB. If you want to piss off Viraj, you tell him our sales in primary. I dislike the word. The only time I see my primary sales is because investors को हमें primary sale report करनी पड़ती है. So, you have to give it to them. So that's the only time I see the primary sales, because I only and only talk in secondary sales, because that's the only sales which matters.
Welcome to Brick by Brick, Building Insurgent Brands by DSG Consumer Partners. Join us as we talk to the brightest founders, investors, and operators across the world about building enduring consumer brands. You can also check out the video of this episode on the DSGCP website and YouTube channel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the first Brick by Brick episode of 2023, where we talk to the brightest minds across the world on building insurgent brands brick by brick. Today's is a very special session. We have a special founder, the first one that we backed at DSG, Viraj, founder of VRB Consumer Products. We've been part of the journey for over 10 years, and we will be discussing about the topic, which is essentially about cracking the offline code. I know for a fact that a lot of digital first founders are figuring out the offline channel this year and should probably be in the list of their New Year resolutions. So, Viraj, I hope we get to learn from you on the best practices in offline in this session. And thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I always say this, anything for DSG. So always anything for DSG. And I'm just putting a caveat. I don't know much. I'm still learning. So I'll try and, share whatever I've learned along the way.
We've learned a lot, and I just wanted to use this time to help others learn as well. And audience, throughout the conversation, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section. We'll take them towards the end of the session. So Viraj, let's jump right in. We can go back to 2012 when we invested, and I think that was December 2012 was when the company was incorporated. For the first 4 years, you chose to focus on B2B and Horeca. It was only after that you launched retail. So could you talk us through the reason for pursuing that strategy?
Just before I tell you that, before I answer that, today, Veeba, 8% of our revenue comes from B2B and about 92% comes from our distribution business.
Right.
When I started Veeba, at that time, the company was called Veeba. VRB name change happened later. When I started Veeba, I was very clear in my head that this company will one day be a distribution first organization. I was very clear that distribution is where the money is, so to say, in India. But distribution setting up is expensive and it's challenging, it's expensive. I have bolded because of distribution, I have grayed because of distribution. Honestly, distribution does this to you. So my thing was, Hari, very simple, that I had put a figure in my head, and that figure at that time was, jab company 100 crores plus kar legi, that is when we will enter retail, not before that, because it's expensive. You have to put feet on the ground, you have to put, Retail is what drives me. What the excitement of, let's say, Hari, you go to a remote town in Kerala and you send me a picture over there. Ke Viraj, see, I'm in Kerala in some unknown town and I saw your products there. That is what gives me a lot of happiness. Even today, I have that childlike excitement when one of my friends or one of my colleagues goes to some place where we're not expecting to see Veeba and, you see. So I was recently gone somewhere beyond the mountains of Uttaranchal, and there was one small shop, and that shop had our 17, 18 of our products. That's what excites me. But just to answer your question, in my naivety at that time, I thought, pehle B2B capture kar lunga. Once I become big in B2B, I will, go and capture retail. And, young, cocky, stupid, whatever you call it, at that time, I realized that I thought that capturing B2B will be easy, followed by two of the most toughest years of my life, 2013, 2014. And at many a times, I thought, what am I doing? There's no B2B business coming. And then slowly, we got one business, our first PO. I remember about 10, 11 months into the company, I got from, about 13, 14 months into the company, got from Domino's, 70 metric tons of their pizza sauce. And I remember thinking, 70 metric tons, 1 month of production, now we will survive. Somehow we will survive. To put things into perspective, that 70 metric tons is 5-10 minutes of production today. But at that time, it was, 1 month of production. And it was like, wow, we will now succeed. And slowly, after Domino's, we got Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell, Burger King. And I reached around the number of, 100 that I'd set in my mind before entering retail. And that is when I decided, okay, now we're ready. Spoke to Deepak. At that time, you'll be shocked to know Deepak had a lot of time. He used to spend a lot of time with me. So spoke to Deepak. I told him, time aa gaya. So on day one of, and you know me pretty well, and, I spend a lot of time in a research center. On day one, I had started working on the retail product list. We had started making the products, perfected the products. So once the products were ready, did not have money to hire these graphic designers and stuff. So the first labels were actually drawn by my hand, and that is what we went out as labels, in 2016 or 17 when we.
Yeah, that's when we launched retail. And now talking about again just going back in time and the first year of retail launch, when you're about to launch retail, how did you think about the initial targets that you set for yourself? Which geographies were you present in? How did you go about identifying the initial products and initial set of stores? That'll be great to understand.
I think now in hindsight, frankly, that is the biggest challenge for a company to decide where to go and what to take. I have made my share of mistakes. And also, Hari, it's, now it's very easy for me to say that I had planned for this and that. Let me say this categorically. We were desperate. We needed money. We needed business. And that is why the strategy was formed. So it was not that I was a genius to form the strategy. But now I think anybody who's listening to this, my $1 million lesson is that, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore is sexy. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to. When we entered in retail, I at that time thought, my God, यहाँ का retailer तो बहुत margin मांग रहा है, how it's expensive and out of lack of money or out of desperation, we went outside first. So we were a north-based company at that time, and this thing was, it was obvious that we will do north. That was very obvious. So we'll start from north, and again, while I'm talking, I also want to give perspective of where we are today. Today, we don't talk in number of shops that we are present in. Of course, we're present in hundreds and thousands of shops. But today, when I talk to my sales team, our depth is now, our discussions are more in number of towns. So today, VRB is present in almost slightly short of 700 towns, much more than 100,000 shops. And at that time, the aim was not to have a national distribution footprint. The aim was not to be present in, let's say, 150,000 shops. At that time, the aim was that how can we do a sustainable business, no matter how small it is. And because Delhi seemed expensive to me at that time, in terms of hiring, in terms of distributor, in terms of freight, everything. So mereko laga, yaar, let's try Punjab first. Let's try maybe Haryana first. And the thing is, now this is the biggest lesson of hindsight. Again, not planned, but the biggest lesson in hindsight, that retailer outside, nobody ever gave him the kind of importance they deserve. So when we went to them, they gave us like open arm welcome. They said, yeah, please keep your product and all of that. And because of that, we realized that, later, about a year later, we realized when we entered Delhi that the Delhi retailer was not as welcoming as the upcountry retailer. So whenever we went to South India, we did the same thing in South and then entered Bangalore and Chennai and Hyderabad. We did the same thing in West and then entered Bombay or Ahmedabad. Same thing in East. By the way, East, I think we still have a long way to go. East is my focus area for 2023. We have a long way to go in East. I think we're only present in about 200, 250 towns. It should be much more than that. But the problem that I see, and I talk to a lot of startup founders, and we are so entrapped by the Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, the usual 10, that we never look beyond them, and they suck you. They suck everything out of you. And by that time, you're too tired. So I always say, do Delhi. But, I'm not saying go to Hoshiarpur and I'm not saying go to Kodaikanal right now or something like that. No, Kodaikanal go to, but don't go to Vellore or Madurai. But in North, if you're talking about North, do Delhi, but along with Delhi, do the other two of the top 10. So that means do the Chandigarh and the Ludhiana also, right? Then when you go to West, don't only focus on Bombay and Pune, do the Nagpur. It's a great city, So one or two other cities, it A, gives you proof of concept, and B, it is an easier revenue stream, easier P&L stream. Revenue obviously will be much higher from Delhi or Bombay, but the P&L is much better in the other places. This was not a planned lesson, but this was a lesson we realized 1 year into our journey that this is the way forward.
Got it. So that's with respect to geography. So you started, your suggestion is that people should start with one of the top cities and 2 satellite cities that are in the neighborhood.
2 or whatever your bandwidth is.
Yeah. But what about products? How did you decide on the initial products that you took to these stores? And what kind of stores were these? Was it modern trade or general trade?
The product mix, frankly, I was personally very, very clear that whatever we do, Veeba, the brand Veeba, should not come across as a Me Too brand. And I was very, very clear about that. So the product list, you have to understand that the sauce, today Veeba probably is India's largest sauce company by volume. We surely are. But at that time, I was very scared of what if we look like a copycat of the, one of the big boys. And that really scared me always, because in my mind, Veeba was somewhere on top, and I always thought that what is not present in the retail shelf is what our entry point should be. So, all our dressings, the low fat dressings, low sugar dressings, that is what we entered with. Even today, Hari, when we've become a off scale company and decided to launch ketchup, I think sharam ki baat hai, bahut zyada sharam ki baat hai that it takes a Veeba 75 years after independence to get India's first preservative-free tomato ketchup. Now, some of the MNCs operating in India do give preservative ketchup to, kids of US and Europe. So does that mean our kids are not good enough to get that same formulation? I understand it's expensive. I'm saying let the consumer choose. Give them an option of both, preservative and non-preservative. So whatever is... So even when we launched ketchup today, we launched it with a clear focus of not being Me Too. So we are going plus and giving the consumer the choice of having a preservative-free tomato ketchup or a sugar-free tomato ketchup for that matter. I think we're the only Indian company manufacturing sugar-free tomato ketchup. These kind of things. So it was very, very clear. And Hari, I'll be very, very, since it's most of DSG family listening in, my single biggest lesson, and I swear I am going to be sharing a multi-million-dollar lesson here. I don't even know if I should share or let me share. So my single biggest lesson is whenever we go to a retailer and we say, sir, ye 12 piece, please keep these 12 pieces. And in the next visit, when it's after a week or 2 weeks, only 6 gets sold. The retailer is thinking, abhi to unka 50% maal bacha hu. Abhi to unka, like right now, 50% of their stock is still there. Now, imagine a world where you go to the retailer, you give them 6 pieces, but next time all 6 have been sold or 5 have been sold. The retailer suddenly thinks, my God, they're stocked out. If you win the retailer's confidence, and today we have won that. The retailer trusts us that we'll be making the right order. We'll not be blocking his inventory, his space, his shelf space unnecessarily. The biggest lesson I have learned is stock less, not more. Because as founders, as young founders, we want, what gives us what arouses us the most is when we go to a shelf and see this bigger face. But trust me, it's the worst thing you're doing for the brand, because the retailer is seeing, if you put, or let's say dump 24 pieces and 7 are sold, that sends a very bad signal in the retailer's head. But if you put 6 and 5 are sold, so I'm saying less sale, 5 versus 7, but that is a much, much better signal. The only thing is you have to be a bit more patient. It takes maybe 3 to 6 months longer. But retailer only sees one thing. Retailer does not see brand. Retailer sees mera shelf space. How much time is he blocking my shelf space? I will give him 3 months and I'll ask him to get lost. Ideally, if he sees your stock moving, and this is, I think, our single biggest secret sauce for a sauce company, is that we realize this, that the retailer wants movement. Let's put less stock. Let the 6 pieces get sold. We've had incidences when, the retailer has asked for 9 pieces and we'll say, no, sir, let us give 6 only. Agli bar we'll see. And we've had retailers abusing me personally. I used to go shop to shop at one point in time and yeah, you guys don't know how to do business. There's a demand of 12. You only give us 9 or 6. And we said, sir, sorry, next time we will give and blah, blah, blah. But that was the single biggest learning. And we follow it till date. Anything new that we launch, anything new. We've recently launched coconut water touch wood. It's done really well. We have made sure that the retail demanded, bhaiya, khatam ho gaya, bhejo. We have made sure that the retail demands our coconut water. And it is not that the customer has picked up everything immediately. We make sure that we supply less and we make sure that the retailer demands. So that, I think, has been my single biggest lesson, or if I may say so, reason to be where we are today.
No, that's very interesting. And as you said, very different from what we see where there's this temptation to go take up the whole shelf and build visibility, all of that. This focus on lesser supply and generating that retailer demand and carrying them along. That's very interesting. A related question, Viraj, again, you said you started with products that weren't there in the market at the beginning. So how did you win the initial set of stores? Was it better margins, or what would your advice be in terms of,
Veeba has never fought on money because all our honorable opposition were deep-pocketed people. So in my head, it was very clear that we can't fight on money. There is no way we can fight on money. I have always been very, very dilution sensitive. And so we've never raised large rounds ever. I mean, Veeba's never raised large rounds. So we've always been on a, cash crunch kind of space.
Right.
But so never competed on margins. Yes, the occasional schemes were given. And I think Deepak will remember the story. One day I decided to give schemes. 8% scheme is a very commonly given scheme in retail. And I was very cocky and bullish that this is going to rock us and everything. And our honorable opposition overnight beat that scheme with a 16.67% scheme. And we were like wiped out, So I remember going to, Deepak and Ash had, I think, joined the board at that time, that guys, what is happening? Someone is actively bleeding money to kind of. So I learned very early that there's no point fighting the money battle with the big boys. So it was always on service. My focus has always been, Hari, how can we win the retailer? Only if we win the retailer will we win the end customer, because that is the biggest conduit, so to say, between the company and the retailer. So always the focus has always been on retailer first kind of a thing. So, and very honestly, retail is not sexy. It's a very boring, very patient, sometimes I'm so jealous of the other food companies. They do these amazing D2C plans and their websites are so cool and, they're so nice. And I feel so jealous. But the thing is, retail is not sexy. Retail takes time. Retail takes patience. It will test you on every level. But if you succeed in GT in India, that is where the magic lies. And you can't earn money from modern trade. You can't earn money from online or whatever. The only place that a company earns money is GT. So I think GT deserves the patience. I think if you set out as investors, you guys should also not expect too much from the companies you invest in. Retail, if you ask for magic before 2 years. So, as you started by saying that many companies have their 2023 resolution of GT. The first time that you should expect them to start showing positive results is 2024, June, July. That is the earliest you should expect them to, mal jayega, it will not get sold, you'll have to pick it all back. And once you pick it, it's a loss, you write it off, blah, blah, blah. Environmentally handling that also is a challenge, because you pick so much, how do you discard it? And all of that is also a challenge. So retail tests you, GT tests you, but to give you a perspective of our revenue, out of our revenue, roughly 70% comes from GT, 22% comes from modern trade, and the remaining 7-8% comes from online, which includes our own website, which is like, I'm ashamed to say, next to nothing. I mean, nothing means less than nothing.
No, but I think, the message is important and is loud and clear that retail takes patience, and both investors and founders should have the patience to wait it out and build it out the right way. But, for founders who are looking to win their initial set of stores, you said, you didn't compete on margins, etc. What would your advice be in terms of how they should think about winning the initial set of stores?
See, winning the initial set of stores, I mean, I'm sorry, but begging and pleading. Because, what happens is always remember in the initial set of stores, I will go myself, or someone who's very senior will be going with me. What we have, A, the knowledge of our product, B, the passion with which we sell our product to the retailer. No big boy company, SO or SR, will ever have the same passion or the energy or the zeal to kind of sell the product. So we win on passion on day one itself, because when we go and talk to the retailer, ke sir, ye rakh lo, wo rakh lo, and obviously, I mean, I know the world is brutal. And if you have to give a retailer 3% extra or 2% extra, please give by all means, but always give it in terms of schemes. Never give it as a flat margin, because a flat margin can never be taken back. A scheme can always be taken back. And that, to me, is the biggest mistake companies make, because when we give flat, so suppose Hari is a retailer and I go to Hari and, let's say my normal margin to you would have been 16% or 15%. What is the normal tendency for the retailer? Ke, boss, you're a startup, 25% to hum lenge. Uske bina, we will not take any supplies from you. So you should obviously negotiate. If he's asking for 25, the settlement will happen at 21, 22, 23, wherever. But that 23, if your base margin like ours, if it's 15, so the 8% should always be given in schemes. Mm-hmm. So it should always be, sir, 12 pe 1 ki scheme, whatever, 8 pe, 8 plus 1 or 12 plus 1 scheme. Sure. So that scheme over a period can be taken back. And obviously, that one piece, he sells it at MRP, so he gets his full 100 rupees if the MRP is 100. It never costs us 100, right? So that also is money in our pocket. So you're giving them 100 rupees. The second thing is, whatever display or whatever that you try and give to retailers, you should always try and give it in stock. So if you're giving a 2,000 rupee display, give 2,000 rupee stock. A, it's more stock in the shelf, and B, he has to earn his display. So, and these are conversations that you have, more or less, they agree. Some retailers, I can name 10 right now who are very brutal and they will not agree to anything. And right. That is the time you have to take a call that, okay, ego wins or, patience wins. It's okay. And let me be very honest. Many times I have agreed, okay, sir, you're not agreeing. Take 5%, please keep the stock. Right. Like that. But try always to the extra margin to be in schemes.
Sure.
And my go-to weapon has always been CD. Okay, sir, 2% CD. At least, what 2% CD, like cash discount, ensures is money circulation. So, Hari, in retail, it's a rule written in stone that if you haven't gotten your money from your distribution network in 60 days, which means distributor to company or retail to distributor, whatever, if you've not got your money in 60 days, that money is not coming. So anybody who's listening in and saying that, I have a 70-day outstanding from the market and, that money is not coming. Let's be very, very clear about that. It's not going to come.
Right. And, one of the things you've also spoken about is your preference to work with smaller distributors and, avoid larger distributors as people think about distribution partners. Could you talk more on that?
Frankly, that's changing a bit now.
Okay. Again, this is for founders starting out, so it could be very different, but you can talk us through the evolution.
Starting out, basically, my aim was always that we should be the breadwinner for the distributor, always. So if that time a distributor was doing a revenue of 5 lakhs a month, so 5 lakhs meant roughly he's going to earn 35,000 rupees from us. So if I wanted that guy still to be, we would never let him do other company work. We would actively stop them because we would say, by all means, do other companies' work. But if you can't meet our investment, and we knew we were launching products all the time, if you can't meet our investment, we'll pull up. So he would never let go. Let's say if Hari, you launch a beverage brand tomorrow, and I have a 5 lakh distributor, it's very easy for you to come because you want to be in the same number of same shops as Veeba. You will come to my distributor and say, कि हमारा भी काम ले लो. We always used to tell the distributor not to take Hari's work because we want your investment only for us. If he insisted, we were very clear, by all means take Hari's work. But if you delay our investments, we are bringing in new launches. If you can't put the money for that, then we are very sorry, we'll move away. Now, distributors never wanted that 5 lakh distributor. If we were responsible for 70-80% of his turnover, he would never want us to kind of get pissed off, so to say. And now the same thing we're doing with the 50-60 lakh distributor also. So my intention was not to go for the smallest guy. My intention was to be the big boy in the distributor's portfolio.
Sure.
Because the distributor is very, very important, part of the whole puzzle. I know a lot of people say it's a dying breed, and I don't think so at all. I think for the next 10 years, the distributor is not going. Yes, Reliance is doing some mega stuff, and yes, they will one day replace a lot of distributors, but he's not going anywhere. The relationships the distributors enjoys with shopkeepers, it's very difficult for a software to do that. I think the lesson is not to go to the smallest guy, but to be the biggest boy in the small in your distributor's portfolio, small or big, whatever it is.
Right. And the other question or conundrum that a lot of founders always grapple with is, what is the right time or stage at which they should expand to other geographies? We spoke about your recommendation to start with one city and two satellite markets. So maybe you can take Veeba's example itself. You started primarily focusing on Delhi and the two other towns in Punjab. So what was the scale that you hit? What were the milestones that you hit before you decided to expand into other geographies?
So my thing was very, very simple. And frankly, what I am about to say should be blindly the rule book for anybody who's entering retail right now. It has to be a 10 city, 1,000 shop. So I call it proof of concept. If we can be successful in 10 cities and 1,000 shops, I mean, you can debate is, Viraj, don't be silly, it's too small and blah, blah, blah. But I always say 10 cities, 1,000 shops. And frankly, yes, it's easier to do the top 10, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Chandigarh, Ludhiana. But I'm saying 10 cities, 1,000 shops. So if you don't want to expand too fast, then let the 10 cities be in only north and west. Or if you're a west-based company, let it be only west and south. But get this 10 city and don't wait. Okay, I will only do these. In the difference we did was that we went to the non-metros first. But that 10 city, 1,000 shop concept, gives the founder so much confidence. Because if you succeed in only a Delhi, Bombay, or a Bangalore, you're never sure that India is not that, right? Those are only 10 cities. The other 1,000 cities or the other 700 cities are not Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. So you always have to be very, very clear that you want to make a company which is one day going to be national. And if it's going to go national, then let it be a 10 city, 1,000. So 10 city, 1,000 shops let the 1,000 shops be a representation of the country as well. So which means there will be 10% modern trade, 5% standalone modern trade, but the 70-80% has to be general trade. I'm not saying go to C or C minus, be intelligent. You should know where your product should go. But that 800 to 1,000 shop benchmark, that is when you will know if that is being done successfully, then it's very different from selling a 300 rupee bottle of face cream or Southwest Chipotle. By the way, our Southwest Chipotle is not 300. I'm just saying of anything. It's very different to sell it in, let's say, I don't want to take the name of any app, but any app or your own website, as opposed to selling it in general trade. It's a very different mindset. So if you're going to be an online first company, and your MRP is going to be 300 for a X thing, please expect. So, Hari, if you were to launch a sauce company tomorrow and you price yourself 100 rupees over me, I will always undercut you. And yes, customers will try Hari's sauce for one time, maybe two, but then they'll say, if I am giving value for money at 300 or 200, then there is no business for them to stay with you. 1 to 10% might always say, okay, we like Hari's taste better. But if I believe my sauce is actually tasty, we are giving value for money, there is no reason for you to ever price it over us. But yes, online first, some brands I have seen, they have launched sauces which are at a premium of almost 50 to 60% to us. Now, I think that is daft. Because when you plan that pricing, yes, you will do very well online. Someone will see this sexy bottle and that, sexy name and but that is it. You will sell 6,000 bottles from online that particular month and bravo. But GT is a bit different. So if you have had an online presence and you don't want to maybe be stupid enough to have a separate, not brand, but separate line for GT. So there's no confusion between your online GT
And you said to start with 10 cities, and any inputs on what is the scale that a company should get to in those markets before even thinking about other geographies?
Hari, my thing is profitability. See, it's not about scale. So, for example, if I am selling, I don't know, BD and Munis, obviously BD will have a different scale altogether than
Right. Yeah.
Munis.
Yeah.
So I'm not. So scale
Fair
is,
enough.
I think, a wrong question.
Sure.
It is more of what is a successful. So let's say if I get this 10. So
Yeah,
what?
I'll rephrase it. It's more the milestones that they should
So-
hit before thinking. Yeah.
So what you need to look at is this 10 city model if it's successful. So for 10 cities,
Mhm.
let us assume we will have roughly 30 sales officers,
Mhm.
2 ASMs, and 1 sales manager. I am not talking about a CSO or chief sales officer kind of a level guy right now.
Mhm.
I'm saying if the business coming from these 10 cities and 1,000 shops is able to sustain that,
Mhm.
that to me is a successful end result. If it is not being able to, and again I say this again, I'm going to say this repeatedly, that 18 months to wait karna hi padega for you to
Yeah.
expect anything.
Right.
But 18 months, why 18 months? It's 3 shelf life. So if your product shelf life is 6 months, then at least 3 rotations to dekho. If your product shelf life is 1 year, then at least give, even in that scenario, give 18 to 24 months. If your first product placement at, let's say, you've got a 2-year shelf life, you're a personal care company, you've kept in a beautiful store in Delhi, there's a store called Modern Bazaar, beautiful stores. You'll never earn money out of that because they'll ask you for, I don't know, your kidney
Right.
and your liver and all of that to
Mhm.
place the product. But over there, if you've kept a product and, you've kept 12 pieces, only 2 are sold,
Mhm.
either the product is not right, I'm sorry, but or your pricing is not right. There is no other thing. So you need to reevaluate it that time only. So
Sure.
10 cities, 1,000 this thing, successful sales model. I am not expecting, or even Veeba has never done it. I mean, that we put the entire company's pro rata overhead on that 10. I'm saying to make this model successful, we are at the end of the day trying to expand our business only if it meets the sales overhead of that.
Fair enough. In 18 to 24 months. That's the framework. That's very interesting. Okay. And now I just want to spend some time on just the offline org structure. Don't worry, very, very basic questions. Because, for founders who are starting to think about venturing into offline, what would your advice be in terms of who their first critical hire should be and what should be the target for that person in the first 18 to 24 months?
See, the first hire now, Joe, the sales team, I mean, sales team is like an army. So it is always important to hire, let's say, even if you're doing 1 city, hire 4 people. Peer pressure works really well in sales.
Mhm.
There is, let's say if it's Delhi or let's say Bombay, South Bombay, North Bombay, have 2 people in South, people in North, so that they can compare notes. There's a healthy competition between South Bombay and North Bombay. So ideally, if it's 1 city, depending on the city, if it's, let's say, Bombay, the bare minimum is 4 sales officers and 1 ASM. But I kid you not that if the founder is not going to go in and dirty his hands, there's no point. So, and I don't think any founder will not do it. Every founder will do it, So 4 SOs, 1 ASM, no senior people, no RSMs, no ZSMs, no NSMs, regional sales managers, zonal heads or national sales heads right now. You need to be the RSM because you need real-time information coming to you. You definitely need to listen to your SOs because they will be the first point of feedback. They will be telling you, sir, maal bikra, nahi bikra, whatever it is. So 4 people, and when you've entered 5 cities and you have 5 ASMs with, Bombay will need 4, but Pune will need only 2 to begin with. That is the time you bring in an RSM. So
Sure.
not for that. So 5 cities, my strong recommendation would be I am guilty of being the RSM for far longer than I should have been. But 5 cities, you need to be the sales head, definitely, because you will be changing on a day-to-day basis.
And your advice on best incentive structures for salespeople, sales targets versus collections, etc.
Shockingly, Hari, till date, Veeba doesn't have a sale incentive program. Till date.
Wow.
We've never had it. We don't have it even now. It is very strange. I think we're the only anomaly in FMCG who doesn't. Because to me, sales incentives lead to a lot of dumping in retail. You can have incentives for sales, but you cannot have incentives for, if the stock is put, let's imagine I'm a guy earning 20,000 rupees and then you come and tell me that you can earn 5,000 extra by putting in stock. Be sure I will put in stock. But is that converting into tertiary sales? Is that converting into that? So that scares me, to be honest. So I am a bit scared of incentives. We have not given incentives. In fact, strangely so, this is a very, very funny story. Last month is the first time we gave sales incentive on a new product launch. Till in the last 9-10 years of Veeba's
And what prompted that change in thought process?
We were launching pasta under our second brand, Earthmade. And, pasta is a commodity. So I wanted it wide and fast.
Sure.
So I said, our sales and, 1 year plus shelf life. So I said, sales team ko de do, but it was only a launch incentive scheme. So it was only for the first 2 months and then will be pulled back next one. So this is
interesting because it's completely, as you said, probably the only FMCG brand with this kind of. So how do you manage to salespeople that are used to incentives, etc., and other organizations when you hire them? It would be useful to double click and explain the rationale and how you manage to set expectations with the people you hire.
So for me, I think it's at the end of the day, what is stronger than a 2,000 or a 4,000 rupee incentive is a army wali feeling. It's a bond between two people. It's a bond between the organization and the person. And at the end of the day, your job is to sell. So if my job is to sell, then we might, by the way, give incentives at the senior level. For certain things, there might be some incentive or something like that. But at the end of the day, if your job is, you've been hired to sell a product, you can't say, boss, बेचने के लिए और पैसे लूंगा. So it does not really gel well with my thought process. And the second thing is, we have a very nice admiration program. We have a very nice recognition program. We also have we have 3 closings in a month there. So you can imagine. So we close our month 10th, 20th and 30th every month, which also means 3 times the amount of work for me or anybody else in the sales team. But 3 closings ka benefit ho jata hai ki, if let's say Hari is our SO, Hari can't come to me on 25th of any month and say, boss, I screwed up. We would know that he's screwing up on 10th, 20th or 30th, right? We get to know where he is. And then we can either pull up or, do whatever we are doing. So at the end of the day, sales runs on targets, right? Everything is target. Everything is number. Everything is number. 10th, 20th, 30th, you have to deliver, you have to do this thing. The other thing is the word that I hate, and it's a joke in VRB. If you want to piss off Viraj, you tell him our sales in primary. I dislike the word. The only time I see my primary sales is because investors ko my primary sale report karni padti hai. So, you have to give it to them. So that's the only time I see the primary sales, because I only talk in secondary sales, because that's the only sales which matters.
Got it. No, very interesting. And there's an interesting question from the audience. I'm just going to bring it in because it's on topic. The question is, people struggle with hiring overall. How do you hire for offline? Is it those who hustle but don't have connects, or those with connects but don't hustle?
For me, very honestly, connects will come first in retail. Like this, as a founder, I look for 2 things. A, that person should not be ashamed of asking for money. That is, I think, number 1. Without getting into details, Hari, you are aware of what our working capital cycle is like that. So, A, you should not be ashamed of asking for money. That is number 1. Number 2, my thing, earlier I used to ask, if you're a salesperson in, let's say, West Delhi, name the top 10 retailers. Do you have their phone numbers? Do you know their managers' phone numbers? Things like that. If they have a pleasing personality, they know 10 shops by name in their area. I think that is, frankly, that is important, because if he has a pleasing personality, he can go and, suck up to the retailer. That's what's needed. What will you hustle? Hustling will, instead of putting 12 bottles, 18 bottles, but we don't want that only, no? So,
Stop.
And sometimes the hustlers are... Can I take a step back and say something very off topic?
Oh, please do.
I think hustle is a bad word. I think the word hustle, shows like Shark Tank make these words popular and stuff like that. A founder should not be a hustler. you can only and should only be a hustler for the first 2 years of your life as a founder. After that, if you're a hustler, you will honestly and surely come in the way of your organization. There is no doubt in my head. It is easier to do than getting it done, but there is only so much you can do. So be a hustler for the first year, be a hustler for the second year, maybe third year also. But after that, be an organized player. Let people do and stay the fuck out of their way. Organize vision, look at the bigger picture. But hustling, hustle. There's so many founders who do hustle. I mean, you can't do everything yourself, and hustling is okay for some time, and after that you have to stop hustling. And how do you hire people? Today, we're lucky. A lot of people are willing to join us. We, as you know, won the Best Employer of the Year award. We were number 1. Number 2 was Cadbury. Number 3 was General Mills in our category, 2,000 to 5,000 employees. But earlier, barring sleeping with them, I have taken them out for coffee, dinner, lunch, breakfast. I have done everything to make people join us, convince them, beg them. Yeah, that it takes. I mean, that's
you never know. Maybe not having an incentive structure also played a part in that. So, but no conversation with you is complete without speaking about products. I saved it for the last so that we don't go overboard with it. Would be useful to talk about new product development. Again, how would you encourage founders to think about new product development in terms of how far out they should plan for? And, just general advice on how to approach it.
I think I genuinely, frankly, feel that the founder's gut is the most important thing in product launches. I mean, who would have ever thought that a product like Southwest Chipotle is needed, or for that matter, Sleepy Owl's coffee is needed, or Arata's, personal care products are needed. It is from the gut of the founder. I think my 2 lessons here is A, don't be overly attached to your product. So if you see a long tail and you need to chop it off, please do chop it off. I think you should know your product really well. If you don't know the product inside out, I think it's very difficult to sell the product. So even if you're not the person making it or the brain formulating the product, you should know the product really well. It looks really weird when a founder goes for a meeting and, I have this anti-aging cream. So what is the ingredient that helps the anti-aging? And you don't know the answer for that. So you should really know your product inside out before trying to sell it. And I think nothing like the founder's gut, to be honest. And very honestly, I listen to everyone with such open ears, I can't tell you. You don't know where a good idea comes from. And when it does, you just grab onto it and, make it your own one day. But I listen with a very, very open.
Right. And you mentioned, one of the important points you mentioned is also be clinical about chopping off products that don't work. So how, in an offline setting, how do you go about, determining whether to double down on a new product versus chopping it off?
So basically returns. So if the product is coming back, let's say if our company's overall return percentage, our return percentage currently is about 3%, slightly less than 3%. I'm not saying it's good, it's high. But let's say a Delhi or a Bombay or a Pune or, our top 200 odd cities will give us 0.5% return. Our return comes as high as 20%, 25% when you open a new town, new city, because we have to test the water. We have to give it to 20 shops to see if 10 can keep it or not. So that is why I average. None of our honorable opposition ever expanded the distribution. We are expanding the distribution. So because of that, the new towns and the new products give us a lot of replacement. But let us say a new product after, let's say, 24 months, that is 4 cycles in my case, or 3 to 4 cycles in my case, is giving a more than 10% replacement. More often than not, it means you need to remove it from the very difficult thing to do.
Right.
But I think then you need to remove it from your portfolio.
Right. And, staying on products that didn't work, you've been vocal. We've launched ketchup recently, but you also tried launching it long back and, which didn't work. And it was, I think it was a large category and, it's very obvious as to why you wanted to enter that category. But what are your lessons from that failure?
my lessons are बाप होता है, बाप से पंगा मत लो. So before you're of a typical, before you shouldn't bite more than you can chew. So I launched ketchup long before I should have entered ketchup. I was naive. I thought, little bit of success went to my head, and I thought, okay, let me, take on the big boys. Now when we have reached launch, being a big boy today in this industry, I'm not saying we are like a very large company or anything, but being a big boy today, even today, I'm very skeptical of the way we are launching ketchup, and I'm very careful of how we're launching. So at that time, now when I think back, I actually laugh at myself. What was I even thinking, But horrible packaging, horrible this thing, so... And the price points are much higher. You can't go and take on a Maggie or a Kisan and, price yourself 50 rupees per bottle higher. Yes, your Veeba, you can charge 3 rupees per bottle premium because you think in your head you're a premium brand. But I think I did everything wrong in the first launch. I'm hoping not to repeat those mistakes. And, the big boys are also brutal. They if they see you disturbing them, they also take... Like how a parent would take a slipper to your bottom, they do that also at times. So you have to be ready for it. And
so that's useful. Sorry, please complete.
I'm saying it's a combination of the right product and also at the right time. So without taking the name of this product, we've got this amazing product line ready with us. I think when Veeba can launch that product, that will be our coming of age launch. Deepak has tried it, and that product has been lying ready with us for the last 1 year or so. I'm scared of launching that product. I don't think we'll be ready for the next year or two. But if we can launch that product, and if we are successful at that product, then I can say, okay, you've achieved something. So the product and the timing, whether you can do justice to such a big category is very important.
Sure. So I just saw the time. So let me just jump to the audience questions. We'll take the first one. This says, when you launched Veeba retail, your bottle was uniquely shaped and you had sweet onion, other dressings. Did it take time to gain market acceptance?
Yeah, of course. I mean, sweet onion continues to be one of our top sellers today, but yeah, it took time. वो जो tasters होते हैं ना, so at that time, what I used to do, I used to train the tasters myself who were standing in every shop and make them taste. So I used to explain to them. So when they're selling, let's say, a Maggie noodle or a Bonvita, they've been consuming it, they know. So I used to train we used to call them taste consultants. I used to train the taste consultants, and they used to... So I remember taking a class of these 10 sales consultants, and I was saying, कि ये जो चिपोतले है ना, तो suddenly one guy, sir, गाली मत देना. मैंने कहा, अबे चिपोतले बोल रहा हूँ, चिपोतले. I'm not saying anything else. So that is how unknown chipotle and sweet onion were at that time. But they continue, the bottle, the sweet onion bottle continues to be the bottle that we launched it in. We did try and change it once, but again, market baap hoti hai. Market told us that the customer wants it in the same bottle. So it's in the same bottle. So yeah, that bottle we have retained, and that product is still one of our top sellers.
Perfect. The next one is on the right time to go big bang in ATL.
So the right time to go big bang in ATL is, I think, never. You need to, again, retail is not sexy. Retail is, I have made the mistake of IPL final launch, SRK, all of that. But by the way, mom's ko, Malika, she still owes me a lunch. She's very cheap about it. She's not giving that lunch to me. But she was launching ATL.
So I hope she's listening.
I hope she's listening also. She was launching ATL, and she said, we are launching ATL and the revenue will jump this much by this much by this much. I said, no, Malika, it will not jump. It will take some time. So ATL will build your brand. It will not give sale the next day. It doesn't work like that. Trust me on this. I can give it on a stamp paper. It doesn't work like that. What it does really well is in a cluttered market, it helps you break the clutter. Bollywood really helps. But you need to be patient. So if you do a campaign in June to expect that my July and August sales will be like this, it won't happen. But yes, your Jan-Feb sales might start showing increase because when the customer goes, she will, at that time she's in the aisle and that time she'll remember, I saw this Veeba ad, and it takes time. So ATL works really well for brands like Pepsi and Coke in the summers when they're trying to grab each other's market share at a war footing. It does really well for Fevicol, but we never go and buy Fevicol because we saw the ad. They keep reinforcing the brand, but ATL does not give revenue overnight. And honestly, I have made that mistake here. So please, if you can learn from
we've seen this multiple times over. So glad that you clarified that. The next one is on interesting. Is selling beverages more difficult than dips in sauces?
No, yeah. I mean, see, we've just started selling beverage. We've just introduced 3 beverages: coconut, oat milk, and almond milk.
Yeah.
But so let's leave oat and almond. So coconut water. We've recently launched India's first sugar-free and 100% or not. I'm very proud of this. Not India first; it's a world first. Organic coconut water, 0 sugar, 0 preservatives. Now, the beauty of beverage, as opposed to a dip or a sauce, when you open a bottle of mayonnaise, it is in your fridge for at least a month to 45 days. The sale period is so slow, and some houses, a dressing bottle might even last for 4 months, or sometimes you actually throw the bottle because the shelf life has finished, but there's still some sauce left. But the beauty in beverage is that you open the bottle, you drink it, and you're ready for your next one. So the sale is much faster, and that is the beauty of beverage. And again, I'm trying to get my hands dirty with beverage, but I'm loving the fact that, you can give a shop 48 pieces today and the shop will ask for 48 pieces tomorrow also. So that is the beauty. And over there, we are seeing, impulse buying really helping, on the counter scheme really helping. But all the schemes are bulk purchase. So we'll not give you a scheme on 1 bottle, but we'll give you a scheme on 6 bottles, kind of a thing.
Right. No, that's an interesting take on beverages, which is widely, at least the collective wisdom is it's a difficult category to crack given low gross margins, etc. But that's a refreshing take.
By the way, we are in a high gross margin product, right? So we've not really, don't know anything about the low gross margin, 20 rupee. Our coconut water is 65 rupees.
Right.
It's expensive.
No, that's true. The next question, I think we have a QSR founder who's disappointed that you chose to walk away from QSRs. Why did you choose to walk away from QSRs?
By the way, not chosen to. We are still the largest suppliers to Domino's, still the largest suppliers to Burger King. In fact, today I got an email that we are a tier 1 supplier from Yum now. But we are very, very, very passionate about. The only thing is, what was 100% of the company's revenue in absolute terms in 2016, in absolute terms, it's still the same. As a percentage, it's dropping, but as an absolute term, I mean, I love QSRs. The thrill of going to a Burger King and still getting my Veeba sachet, still puts a smile on my face. So, yeah, very, very passionate about that. Paise nahi dete to kya hua? So,
the next question, interestingly, is on B2B clients. What are the various ways to retain a B2B client for beverage brands? I think it's for any category for that matter.
I think what number 1 is reliability. What happens is, for any B2B brand, you have to realize that you're such a small part of their entire universe, supplying a sauce or supplying having been a failed restaurateur myself, you realize later that you're such a small part. And even if that part you cannot make stress-free, then shame on you. So for a beverage player, or, so if I have ordered for, let's say, 24 bottles of coconut water, and for that I have to call up thrice, or, have one guy or something nagging in my head. So number 1 is reliability. It's a given that, your product and price is right. If your product and price is not right, you're never going to enter. So once you've entered, the number 1 thing is reliability. And the number 2 thing is innovation. So if you are their innovation partner, so for anything new, because how QSR works in India is every quarter they launch a new menu, which is their NPD department launches a new menu every quarter. That is how so if you can be their innovation partner, so that is what, we've launched so many beverages for so many QSRs, For example, our chefs will go, and if you can pitch let's say a Valentine burger with a Valentine beverage, with a Valentine dessert, then we'll go and pitch everything so that dessert might have our, strawberry sauce. The beverage might be a strawberry cooler, or, or a decadent chocolate with strawberry, and the burger will be a Tabasco strawberry dressing or something like that. Acha idea hai. Agle Valentine's mein pitch karunga to one of these guys. But innovation and reliability. I think. after you're in.
Yeah. And I think the other question is your take on listing fees.
Hate it. Don't have a choice about it. I think listing fees is something which is when they need you, without taking the chain's name. One chain gave us a listing fees of 1.7 crores estimate. So we went to them and said, okay, sir, we don't have 1.7 crores to give. This is 2017 or so, So they said, okay, beta, bye bye. Sorry, we can't do anything about it. Now, the interesting thing is their store managers also have a KRA, whether they have things which the competition or nearby shops have or not. So the same chain, we listed a year later, that 1.7 crores, we could negotiate it down to under 25 lakhs and we got listed. So even, you keep at it, you keep begging them, you keep pleading with them, sir, please, please, please. But at the same time, what is very important is that you become available all around their stores. And when their managers see that, your brand is available in a GT next to them or it's available, that really helps.
Right.
And if they're kind enough, then they will kind of negotiate down.
And I think the last one is a generic question on go to market for offline. I think we touched upon various aspects, but first 2 years of offline journey for a new brand, any pitfalls that founders should watch out for that we've not covered so far?
I think everything is a pitfall. It's the most difficult thing to do the first 2 years but I think whenever it all becomes too much, I always say break it up, break it into clusters of 5 shops, 10 shops, but be very, very hands-on for the first 18, 24 months. And that is the most important thing. Be in the market, see the shops, what the customer is saying, what the retailer is saying. A lot of times we focus on what the customer is saying, but not focus on what the retailer is saying. So always listen to the retailer, break it down. It becomes very, very difficult. Yeah? I mean, even today, sometimes I just I feel like just ripping my head apart. Okay, when will this ever stop? Something is. So what works for me is just kind of breaking in small pockets, seeing if something is working, why is it working? And maybe I've learned something here and I can. So go to market strategy, if you have the money, then to nothing like a combination of print and online digital marketing, print along with your retail entry. If you don't have the money, then as much as BTL, you should have a decent budget to decorate your shelf spaces. You should have a decent budget to give these things you think are so trivial, but they all matter. A pad for the retailer, a pen for the retailer, जिसमें वो पूरा time bill अपना काट रहा है. If it's your Veeba's diary where he's cutting the bill, he's always seeing that Veeba written over there. Small things. So your GTM strategy should have a significant 10, 20, 25% spend going towards BTL work, both retail decoration, danglers, posters. You will always hear salespeople saying, "Okay, sir, dangler lagane ka koi point nahi, agli team aati hai, nikal deti hai." It's because it's difficult to hang danglers and put posters. It's not easy for them. But trust me, danglers and posters work. So, danglers, posters, display strips, shelf strips work really well. And along with that, just be present, I think.
Yeah, present and patient and start with focus.
I mean, out of all the negative things I've said, let me just add that if you get GT right, trust me, it's the most beautiful place to be in.
Yeah.
And I still haven't got it right, by the way, so I'm still struggling.
No, but great. Thanks a lot, Viraj. And, finally, my closing question for those listening in, if they want to become Viraj, what do you think are the important personality traits that they should have to get there?
Yeah, first of all,
why do you look stunned?
So I don't think I'm ready to or half as successful as to answer this question. And very, very honestly, I'm so jealous of so many of your founders. I keep, kind of just stalking them online to see what they are doing, what they're doing. So I'm learning a lot. But I'm not saying to be like Viraj, but my biggest lesson has been, very honestly, patience. I'm not a superstar. I am very clear about that. It is not about being the loudest noise on TV or panels and stuff like that. I think the brand should be bigger than me, and I think patience is very, very important. It takes time to build a brand. I'm still at it after so many years, and I don't think I'm where I wanted to be. I'm not reached there. So still working hard. And if you can find something every day to keep yourself passionate about, because we're doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. So boring is sexy to me. Boring is when you go to office and there's no fire that one day. It's a good day, right? So boring is sexy. Be at, if you're in a mentally happy place and you go to office and you're kind of, you have a smile most of the day, it's a good day. If you have a frown and you're sitting like this and nobody wants to enter your office, if nobody wants to enter your office, then obviously nobody is going to give you the good or the bad. Then how will you? So yeah.
No, that was fantastic, Viraj. And patience, love the emphasis on patience. It's our favorite word as well. And yeah, nothing like, work that feels like play. But thank you so much. We've added another 15 minutes. So really appreciate the time. Great insights and more importantly, very tactical inputs as well. So thank you so much, Viraj. And thanks everyone for joining in.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Thanks, Hari.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.